Back to your point about the defensive line, because this was my biggest takeaway. A lot of times during the offseason, and especially this year, maybe more than ever with the Buffalo Bills, we heard so much hype about this being the Super Bowl favorites, the betting favorites, and Von Miller coming here and this and that. I will say this year, the defensive line upgrades right now, and you can tell after just one game. I don't even think this is an overreaction. I think this is a fact. The upgrades are real. I mean, this ain't offseason talk. This isn't some kind of media creation that the defensive line is much better than it was last year. Von Miller might not be the Von Miller of 5-6 years ago, a half decade ago, but he's still elite, man. I mean, we saw that with 2 sacks and that one, the way he dipped it and got in. And I kept thinking, and look, I do not, and I tweeted about this. I don't want to diss Jerry Hughes at all. Jerry Hughes was a pretty good player. I don't think he was as great as a lot of Bills fans thought, but he was a pretty good player. And he won a lot of pass rush battles. I know they have a win rate or something like that as a stat. But at the end of the day, Von Miller had 2 sacks in his first game with the Bills. Jerry Hughes had 2 sacks in 16 games with the Bills last year. He had 2 sacks the entire season. So you saw that right away. You mentioned Jordan Phillips. He had 1.5 sacks, 6 pressures on the quarterback. Isn't it crazy, dude, how he can look so good in Buffalo? He looked good in Buffalo a couple of years ago. The Bills just didn't want to pay him. He goes to Arizona. He don't look nothing like he did in Buffalo. He comes back to Buffalo, and he looks like an animal, man. I mean, God, he was locked in against Arizona. Again, I like Harrison Phillips a lot. I think Buffalo Jordan Phillips is better than Harrison Phillips. So now you got Miller over Hughes, Phillips over Harrison Phillips. I like Daquan Jones a lot too. I think he's a significant upgrade over Star Latulippe. He's not going to be a big stat guy. And then you got your young guys, man. Maybe they're going to finally start to show their potential. AJ Epinesa had 1.5 sacks. Boogie Basham had a sack. He had a pick. Didn't really mean anything. Greg Rousseau had a quiet night. Well, whatever. He didn't need him. I mean, these guys played well enough. Didn't matter what Greg Rousseau did. And Ed Oliver, by the way, who I love Ed Oliver. He got hurt. He didn't even play in the second half for 2.5 quarters. And it didn't even matter. This defensive line, that's my biggest takeaway from this game. Big picture takeaway, too. This defensive line is going to be a big problem for a lot of teams this year. I mean, you already have problems playing the Bills because of the offense, but this defensive line is really, really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what happens when you are able to have a defensive line that hides the deficiencies, and I say that loosely, of a secondary that's about as raw at cornerback as you could get when it comes to game experience.
Yeah, right now.
You know what I mean? Right now, for sure. I mean, they have the 6th-round rookie was starting, over Elam. It's just like these things are like on paper. You're like, oh, well, this has to be a shootout, and it wasn't. And like they helped, the defensive line helped out the secondary. When it came to just getting pressure on the quarterback, and it was a flawless defensive performance. It was, and I'll say this, I am wondering like how hurt Matt Stafford might be, and I'm giving them like a little bit of a rope there, like because like he looked like shit in that game. He really looked bad, and I wonder if that arm thing issue that they had in the preseason is an issue for him. Because it's just he did not. I mean, look, that's a really good offense.
And he got sacked 7 times. I mean,
yeah,
you're right. I agree with you. He does look hurt and he does look shitty. But I don't care who you are. You get sacked 7 times, and there was a lot more pressures beyond that. Which, by the way, here's another thing. Going back to the defensive line, Joe, we're talking about these sacks and what Von Miller did, and AJ Epinesa and Jordan Phillips. I know you saw the stat. The Bills did not blitz. And I don't mean like they barely blitz. I mean, they did not blitz. They literally didn't blitz. 6 sacks, no blitzes.